What if breaking news tonight, cities aflame, sirens wailing, satellites tracking incandescent missile arcs, were not authored by journalists, but by prophets who walked Judean hills almost 3,000 years ago? What if 17th of June 2025, when Israeli jets struck Iran's nuclear vaults and Tehran answered with an iron rain, had already been etched into sacred scrolls insisting war will rage until the very last page of history? Stay with me and you'll discover why Scripture says these clashes will not merely recur, they will intensify until prophecy's final sentence is spoken. Hours ago, 8 stealth F-35I Adirs skimmed Persian radar and turned Natanz and Fordow into pillars of white-hot smoke. Dawn brought no quiet. Iran's Revolutionary Guard fired more than 400 Shahab-3 and Zuljana missiles toward Jerusalem, Haifa, and Eilat, while Shahed drones clouded the early light. Israel's Iron Dome and David's Sling carved glittering counterfire across the sky. Yet warheads still cratered streets. Millions crouch in stairwells clutching toddlers' pets and wedding albums. Analysts see politics. The Bible hears the next stanza of a song begun in Eden. Dead Sea Scroll fragment 4Q285 predicts a final war of the sons of light against the sons of darkness, naming Persian fighters against Israelite defenders. Isaiah likewise called a Persian king, Cyrus, by name a century and a half before his birth. If Scripture pinpointed an ancient Persian liberator, could it also have foreseen tonight's missiles? Jesus told his disciples, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see that you are not alarmed. These things must happen." The Greek verb dii, must, shows history moving under compulsion, not whim. Israeli doctrine echoes that certainty, quoting the Talmud. "If someone comes to kill you, rise early and kill him first." Tehran's commanders counter with Quranic calligraphy on missile skins. Fight them until there is no oppression. 2 ancient libraries fuel 1 modern battlefield. Open Ezekiel 38. Persia stands beside Magog, Meshech, Tubal, and Gomer invading Israel in the latter years. For centuries, scholars shrugged, until modern maps overlapped the prophecy unnervingly well. Persia alone still carries her biblical name, Iran. Magog's lands trace parts of Russia and Turkey, partners now trading drones, gas, and vetoes. Coincidence or prophetic timestamp? Alexander the Great allegedly read Daniel's visions and marched with extra swagger. Perhaps today's generals, knowingly or not, rehearse scripts written long ago. In 2021, Israeli metallurgists traced lead from 5th century BC arrowheads found near the Temple Mount back to Iranian mines. Jerusalem once imported Persian metal. Now Persian metal rains upon it. History's rhyme sounds deliberate. Does this war confirm Ezekiel, or are we forcing headlines into ancient poetry? Drop your verdict below. I read every line. Scripture claims every earthly battle echoes a higher, hidden clash. Daniel 10 shows an angelic messenger delayed 21 days by the Prince of Persia, a spiritual ruler contesting territorial authority. Medieval rabbis calculated Persia's angelic mandate at 21 generations, remarkably close to the 21 months between Iran's 60% enrichment milestone in 2023 and tonight's eruption. Coincidence, perhaps, or another silent clock chiming. Paul reiterates in Ephesians 6, "Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, authorities, and powers." Where satellites tag drones, prophets tag dominions testing invisible front lines. Second Temple priests once consulted the Urim and Thummim, mysterious stones said to glow with divine verdict, before battle. Scholars suggest an echo lingers whenever Israel's war cabinet convenes, hands flat on polished oak, weighing life and death decisions with liturgical gravity. Even secular officers sense temple dust on their shoulders when history tilts. Neuroscientists call it predictive coding. The mind fills gaps with expected patterns. Scripture flips the model, filling the Future with divine patterns, so believers interpret chaos through promise, not panic. Have you ever sensed forces beyond politics steering world events? Share your story below. By dawn of day 3, reality sprinted past fiction. 35 Iranian missiles pierced Israel's shield, toppling Haifa apartments and torching Ashkelon depots. At the same hour, Shayatet 13 divers crippled 2 Revolutionary Guard corvettes in the Strait of Hormuz, spiking oil above $140. Zechariah 12 warned, "I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling for all surrounding peoples." Market graphs, flaming towers, and frantic hotlines now vibrate like plucked harp strings. A viral clip shows Tel Aviv's skyline etched by white intercept streaks, while a TikTok filter scrolls Psalm 122, "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem." Prophecy has found Wi-Fi. If decoding scripture alongside breaking news matters to you, tap subscribe and ring the bell right now. Help us bring clarity amid the noise. Iran's targeting software spared Jerusalem's old city, preserving Islamic shrines, ironically echoing Zechariah. The city becomes an immovable stone, too sacred to flatten, too provocative to ignore. A poll shows 78% of Israelis over 50 read this war prophetically versus 43% under 30. Age hears echo where youth hears noise. Leah, a 72-year-old Holocaust survivor, said, "Sirens once meant Hitler's planes, now they mean Persian rockets. History is folding." Across the Gulf, Mehdi, a retired grocer, texted his daughter, "Leaders quote prophecy, yet forget prophecy judges leaders. Which stirs you more, the soaring oil prices or those trembling personal testimonies? Write your answer below." At 2:11 a.m., minutes after the first volley, seismographs from Eilat to Beirut flashed crimson, magnitude 6.1 beneath the Jordan Rift. Coffee mugs rattled, cameras swayed. Amos dated his visions 2 years before the earthquake, and Zechariah 14 foresees the Mount of Olives splitting when nations gather for war. Archaeologists recently uncovered an 8th century BC tower near Lachish collapsed in Uzziah's famous quake. That dormant fault groans anew beneath bulletproof highways. Seismic clusters here align with major wars: 31 BC during Roman struggles, 749 AD amid early Islamic schisms, 1927 as Zionist tensions rose, and now 2025. Geologists say the Dead Sea transform creeps 5 millimeters a year, yet stress peaks when blood boils. Scriptures hint that hubris can shake the land once sounded quaint. Tonight, less so. Saadia Gaon, a medieval sage buried in the Cairo Geniza, wrote the Messiah appears when the earth convulses and kings rage. Uploaded only in 2017, his ink now glows on phones between cat videos. Israel had planned a national quake drill next month. Events advanced the schedule, rescuing hundreds. A medic lowering into a shattered stairwell heard an elderly woman clutch a cracked Torah and whisper, "The mountains quake at his presence." Later he told reporters, "I'm not religious, but those words felt heavier than my gear." Prophecy is not nihilism, it is navigation. Ezekiel's bleak trumpet pivots to promise, "I will leave none of them among the nations." In God's ledger, war is labor pain, not obituary. History confirms the pattern. After Vietnam, former foes exchanged ambassadors. After the Iron Curtain fell, churches blossomed. After 9/11, blood donors outnumbered bombs. Pain, strange tutor, refines purpose. Media rarely note this. Iran's house church movement doubles every 4 years. Whispered worship drifts through courtyards. In Israel, Messianic believers deliver meals to secular neighbors. Violence cannot cancel the gospel, it magnifies it. A rabbinic legend says, Gog's armies will stumble when their weapons misfire, evil tripping on traps it set for others. Remember Peter, chains clinked, yet he preached living hope. Tonight, that hope beats in subway shelters, Tehran basements lit by battery lamps, and living rooms like yours where news morphs into midnight prayer. Miriam, 81, survived the Yom Kippur War. She streams hymns on a cracked phone inside a reinforced stairwell, praying for Israeli pilots and Iranian mothers alike, telling reporters, "Prophecies aren't puzzles to dread. They remind us someone larger holds the stopwatch." Data scientists note a wonder. Within minutes of each missile alert, Psalm 91, "He will cover you with his feathers," appears across Farsi, Hebrew, and Korean feeds. Hope outruns shrapnel. Mainstream coverage tracks iron and fire, yet Scripture prefers seeds and harvests. "Violence will sprout like thorns," Amos wrote, and Isaiah linked blooming deserts to redemption. Tonight, Negev wildflowers lie scorched, a living parable. Botanists note tamarisk trees under heat release a sweet resin, mannitol, likely the mysterious manna of Exodus. Even in trauma, the land preaches mercy. History shows shifting alliances. In 538 BC, Persia freed Jewish exiles. Centuries later, Parthian horsemen, early Iranian kin, raided Galilee. Empires rotate. Prophecy connects the dots. Psychologists say older adults possess a sense-making advantage, weaving crises into coherent stories. That resilience is strategic capital for viewers over 45, called to steady younger hearts. First-century historian Thallus blamed Good Friday's darkness on an eclipse, proving skeptics always scramble for natural explanations. Joel, however, warned the sun would darken and the moon turn blood red before the great and terrible day. Astronomers note a total lunar eclipse will shadow the Middle East 18 months from now, another hand on the clock. UN monitors record radiation spikes near Natanz, forcing evacuations. Ezekiel says cleanup teams will bury weapons for 7 months, marking bones until specialists arrive. Israel's environmental ministry recently adopted bright orange pennants for contaminated soil, policy echoing prophecy. Millions repost. When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction comes. Paul's next line comforts believers. "You are not in darkness." Anticipation, not panic, is our stance. Prophecy is never permission for hatred. Early Persian Christians prayed for their oppressors, support relief agencies aiding civilians on both sides. Generosity preaches louder than arguments. Consider the pattern scholars call the 75-year hinge. From Israel's statehood in 1948 to today spans 77 years, but subtract 2 sabbatical years when fields lay fallow, and you land on 75. Precisely Daniel's extra intervals of 30 and 45 days added to the prophetic 1 to 60. Some dismiss that as numerology. Others note that when numbers and headlines align, humility is wise. Even atheist statisticians concede the Middle East yields conflicts with uncanny periodicity. Regional think tanks now model crisis frequency against the Hebrew calendar, discovering escalation spikes cluster around Jubilee cycles. Ancient economics still rhythmically steering modern artillery and diplomacy. Envoys gather in Geneva drafting ceasefires. Remember, prophecy is a compass, not a panic button. Whether tonight unveils Ezekiel's finale or simply rehearses it, our assignment stands. Watch, pray, act. Which detail convinces you we tread prophetic ground, and what fuels your courage despite detonations? Comment below. Your words may steady another watcher. Want to respond? Support NGOs aiding civilians. Read Matthew 24 with family. Urge leaders to keep humanitarian corridors open. Compassion completes prophecy. If you stayed to this line, type, "Hope prevails." So I know you're one of the watchmen. Your faithful presence here proves curiosity can overcome chaos and faith outlast fear. The darkest night reveals the brightest constellations. Likewise, the fiercest battles unveil the sharpest promises of God. Stay anchored, stay discerning. Perhaps the most astonishing reality is this. The God who mapped centuries also numbers every hair, hears whispered prayers behind concrete walls, and stores each tear as treasure. Prophecy is majestic, yet personal. It reminds us that widows sheltering in Beersheba